Hi everybody, I hope you're safe and well. Welcome to another Chats with Chaudhry. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Surrey and I'm going to be joined by two lovely people. I'm joined by Maria Avelia de Lorenzis, EMEAI segment market leader, discovery and genomics. And she is calling in from Milan, so hopefully it's sunny there. And
no.
Pedro, oh no, all right.
Not at all.
Right, well, that was a bad way to start it. And Pedro Echave, who is global product specialist, next generation sequencing testing. And he is calling in from Barcelona, so hopefully it's sunny there. And they're both from PerkinElmer. And today we're going to be discussing testing for COVID-19. So, ciao, Maria, and hola, Pedro. I hope you're both well.
Hi, Rizwan. Very well, thank you.
It's lovely to see you both again. Mavi, last time I saw you was actually when we did an interview for Analytica in October, or was it early November? I can't remember now. But and we were talking about the COVID things that you were doing on the booth. So it's been a very busy year since then, hasn't it, for you?
Yeah, it was very busy. And at that time, I remember we discussed about the multiplex kit to discriminate between influenza and COVID, because we were waiting for the influenza wave.
Yeah, and in the UK, it never happened. And I think partly because obviously there's been a lot of vaccinations going on for flu, but also maybe lockdown has had an impact.
Lockdown, the wearing mask, all these washing hands, or the basic hygienes helped for sure.
Great. So before we start and start talking about testing and COVID-19, would you mind giving a quick overview of PerkinElmer for those people not familiar with the company, and also your backgrounds?
Yeah, sure. So PerkinElmer is a worldwide company that develops a solution for an healthier world. What does it mean? Let me do some examples. For example, we ensure that the air that you breathe and the water that you drink are cleaner, that the food that you eat, it's of high quality and it's safer. We also the researcher to investigate and understand better diseases like cancer and many others. And as you mentioned, we were very busy with the COVID-19, so supporting clinical labs for COVID-19 testing last year. And last but not least, with our prenatal and neonatal screening solution, we save 76 baby lives every day.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah, it is fantastic.
And what's your background?
Yeah, in PerkinElmer, I am the segment market leader for life science and genomics. And of course, I'm following the COVID solutions. And I help the EMEAI business.
Right. And Pedro, what's your role?
Yes, so I'm biochemist by training, and as you mentioned, I'm product specialist, and so I provide support to all technical questions related to the next generation sequencing portfolio from PerkinElmer.
So you are the NGS expert then. So I'm glad I've got you here. So let's start talking about COVID-19 and testing. So a really basic question, but a lot of people might still be confused out there. Can you explain what the differences are between the RT-PCR test and the rapid antigen tests?
So I can take that. So the RT-PCR tests detect the presence of the viral genome. And the antigen tests detect one or more proteins of the virus using specific antibodies. So antigen tests are usually less sensitive than the RT-PCR, but the benefit is that they give results much faster, in less than an hour.
Right. Okay. And I know there are some doubts of the reliability of the rapid antigen tests. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I can take this. As Pedro mentioned, it's normal that the antigen test is less sensitive than the RT-PCR because it's a different kind of test and the purpose is different. This is a key point. So the antigen test is not to diagnose the infection, okay? It's to screen people. The RT-PCR is the diagnostic tool, okay? So of course, there are different kits on the market, so there are different quality, different sensitivity. And to be, from my point of view, I'm not surprised to see that when you scale up from the validation test, when you test hundreds of people up to the mass screening test of entire city, for example, where you have thousands of samples, then you can end up with a different sensitivity compared to the one that you got in the validation, because you have a much higher number of samples, people, with a much higher variety of the viral load, for example. So it's not surprise, but of course you need to select based on different topics, based on different features of the different kits.
Right, okay. And what makes the RT-PCR test the gold standard, as everyone calls it? Is it just the sensitivity, or what makes it such a gold standard, though, in terms of reliability?
Pedro, do you want to take it, or should I go?
Yes, you can go, yeah.
Okay, so the RT-PCR, in the RT-PCR assays, you do the amplification of the RNA, okay?
Right.
So it's, of course, because you amplify, so you multiply the number of copy of RNA that you have in the sample. These make it more sensitive, okay? The antigen test is based on the recognition of an antibody with the protein of the virus, so it can be less sensitive.
Right, okay.
Usually, to do an RT-PCR for the COVID, they need to have at least 2 genes. And this is what the WHO has suggested, because if you have 2 genes, if you, let's say, look for 2 genes instead of 1, that you have a higher possibility that you detect the virus, even though the virus has some mutation in one of its genes.
Right, okay. And that leads quite nicely, actually, to my next question. So let's talk about mutations. So, perfect segue there, Mavi. So, why are the new variants of COVID-19 such a concern, and how does it impact on the detection of the virus within patients?
Yeah, so I can take this. So first of all, I wanted to mention that the appearance of variants or mutations in the virus, you know, it appears on the news all the time, but it's a completely natural process. Okay, this happens with all viruses, not only with COVID. However, when these variants lead to change in the proteins that conform the virus, so this is a reason for concern, because these modifications can make the virus, for example, more transmissible, okay, than the original strain. And this is going to have a direct impact on the measurements put in place to reduce the number of cases.
Right.
Okay. So this is one of the impacts of the variants. And the other is that variants might cause false negatives when performing RT-PCR.
Right.
Okay. So Mavi has mentioned previously that these tests are designed to amplify specific regions within the genome of the virus. Okay. I don't want to enter into too much detail, but if the regions that the assay uses are mutated, then the amplification might be weak, or in the worst case scenario, it can be abolished. So then you will have a negative result. So to prevent this case, to prevent this situation, the World Health Organization recommends, as Mavi mentioned, that the assay detects at least 2 genes. So the chances that both genes are mutated is lower.
Right, okay, fine. So how are labs able to identify the new variants? I mean, what techniques are available to them to actually differentiate between the variants?
So from the technical point of view, there are several options, okay? Right. Sequencing is the only one that can detect all the variants in an unbiased way, meaning that even if you don't know what you're going to find, you will have a full picture. So the modern sequencing techniques, known collectively as next generation sequencing, have the power of analyze up to thousands of samples per day. Right. Okay, so this is the reason that many labs are using NGS to check for variants in positive samples. But this is not the only technique. You can also use a PCR specific for a particular variant to validate its presence, for example.
Right. Okay. So thank you for that. That gives quite a good overview then of the different variants and the different ways you can test for them. What are PerkinElmer doing in terms of increasing awareness for people out there in terms of the topics we're talking about today?
Well, since last year, we did lots of events, of course, webinar, and we continue also in 2021. Scientific, especially to raise the scientific discussion, to promote the scientific discussion. And we also decided to increase the awareness in the public, specifically targeting the teenagers. Yeah, and so we are going to run webinars, virtual webinars in schools, in senior school around Europe, where we are going to explain to teenagers what's the virus, how it spread across the population, why it's important to follow the prevention measurement. And we discuss a bit about vaccine and vaccination, because we would like to help them to be more receptive and more responsible, and also to distinguish between fake news, myth, word of mouth, from proven scientific data. So this is our goal. We want to stand up for science.
Fantastic. And when does that kick off?
We already did webinars in UK last December,
right.
And in February we will do webinar in Spanish school, as well as in the Netherlands and the Dutch-speaking part of the Belgium, and then we will continue over the year. So, brilliant.
Well, how was the feedback from the ones you did in the UK?
It was very, very nice event, because teenagers, they are keen to learn. They did a lot of questions. Of course, they had strange idea also some. So I think that this is also the proof that we need to teach them how to distinguish between fake news and scientific data, and how to evaluate the information that they receive. But I think that they were happy, the teachers were happy, and we hope the same for the next ones.
Fantastic. Well, that's a great initiative that you guys are doing. And if people want to know more about what you're doing, both in terms of initiative and other ways that you're supporting COVID-19, where can they get more information?
Well, we have an updated website, so it's www.PerkinElmer.com. And we also post all the event information in our social channels, so LinkedIn and Twitter in particular. So anyone can just follow PerkinElmer in those channels.
Fantastic. Well, that's all we've got time for today. So thank you very much, Mavi, Pedro, for joining me from Milan and Barcelona. I always love doing these in other countries. It feels very global when I do these interviews like that. Hopefully the sun will shine in Milan today, Mavi, so that you can join Pedro and myself basking in this beautiful sunshine that we've got today. So
thank you, Rizwan. I hope.
And all that's left to say is thank you again very much. If you want to know more information about what Mavi and Pedro have been talking about today, please check the link above the video, which will take you to the PerkinElmer website, which will have more information. Check out the LinkedIn home pages for PerkinElmer, and also feel free to leave some comments below the video for either Mavi or Pedro if you agree, disagree, or if you've got any questions about testing around COVID-19 or any other areas around virus testing, and I'm sure they'll be happy to answer them for you. So until next time, all that's left for me to say is thanks once again, Mavi and Pedro. Have a wonderful 2021. I hope you're successful, happy and healthy. Same to all of you as well. And until next time, as always, stay well and stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye, Rizwan.
Bye.